In the last half-hour, tepid turnout as Maduro seeks re-election and condemned Venezuela vote in the last hour. In the last 2 hours, Venezuela reaffirms its democratic vocation. Venezuelan president calls for national reconciliation. Is the oil market about to endure a rough ride? Venezuela's Maduro likely to claim victory in a much-criticized election defying global pressure. Nicolas Maduro seeks re-election in Venezuela. In the last 4 hours, Venezuela votes in presidential election. Venezuela accuses U.S. of sabotaging elections with sanctions. Venezuela, voting underway in presidential election. Venezuelans vote in election expected to keep Maduro in power. McDonald, Venezuela is in crisis because it's not a socialist country. Collapsing Iran and Venezuela mock the Fed's definition of inflation. U.S. sanctions meant to undermine Maduro. Venezuelan elections, the economic crisis, the latest. Pope Francis prays for Venezuelans. Venezuela's decimated resistance, protesters stay off streets for election. Video, Venezuela's Maduro casts vote early in controversial election. Venezuela election, students leaving country in droves. Live updates, Venezuela elections, Venezuelans head to polls to elect President Maduro. Development, respect for the sovereignty of Venezuela, peace and unity for Venezuela in Pope's prayers. Venezuela, life with inflation. In the last 6 hours, Maduro set to win second term as Venezuela slips further into economic. Venezuelans voters to decide if President Maduro gets another term. Polls open in Venezuela as Maduro seeks re-election. Venezuelans vote in election overshadowed by crisis. Venezuela presidential election 2018 kicks off. Voices from Venezuela, nobody wants to be a pawn in a game. Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro casts vote in controversial election. Venezuela kicks off presidential elections. Venezuela to elect president amid grave economic crisis. Venezuelan president expected to win a second 6-year term. Venezuela votes as opposition boycotts elections. Maduro set for re-election. Venezuela election, all you need to know in the last 8 hours. How Venezuela's president keeps his grip on a shattered country. Earlier today, Fact Box, Venezuela's presidential election candidates defying global pressure. Maduro seeks re-election in Venezuela. 4 sites point to the presidency of Venezuela. Maduro is the favorite as Venezuelans vote. Venezuela's Maduro's second term despite economic woes. Venezuela attends the trial of the polls. The Observer view on Venezuela's need for profound change, not a sham poll. Venezuela election, Maduro expected to win second term. The empire and the election. Venezuela, new U.S. sanctions aim to sabotage elections. Maduro favored as Venezuelans vote amid crisis. Venezuela accuses U.S. of sabotaging election. Venezuela says U.S. sanctions attempt to sabotage their elections. Yesterday, Venezuela, global observers ratify electoral transparency. Tomorrow's elections in Venezuela will be a joke. Venezuela accuses U.S. of sabotaging election with new sanctions amidst threats and defiance. Venezuelans head to the polls. Maduro meets with international observers ahead of Sunday's vote. Venezuela's unfolding crisis, as told by its version of The Onion. Brent price is anticipated to rise over supply concerns. Spain increases Iran oil import. How much does it cost to advertise a fake election? As despair continues to engulf Venezuela, voters go to the polls pimping out Miss Venezuela unconvinced by the election. Venezuela emigres stream across border. Here's why you can't blame socialism for Venezuela's crisis. U.S. accuses Maduro of links to drug trade. What if Venezuela's regime just keeps going? The United States versus democracy unconvinced by election. Venezuela emigres stream across border. Venezuelans are boycotting their presidential election. Powerful, unpopular Venezuela leader faces opposition foes. Empty stomachs drive Venezuela soldiers to desert in droves. Anti-Maduro Venezuelans not unlike anti-Castro Cubans. If your Brent notches 6th week of gains, the trouble with Venezuela's upcoming presidential election. In photos, Venezuela's empty election offers voters no relief. Opinion.